welcome back to another episode of The Lost Guys. And today, I am joined once again by the inscrutable Martin Stone and the incredible Nolan Thunder. Gentlemen, how are you?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I am not just hangry, but angry without the age. I am furious. I am wound up. My gears are grinding. My table legs are shaking because this is going to be a ranting session on a particular subject. And
But I'm in a good mood. Why are we talking about a mean subject that's going to make me mad? Or what are we talking about?
Because we are going to be talking about the one thing which I think everyone will agree is probably the worst thing ever conceived of after taxes, which are subscription business model. So our subject today is somehow one-time purchases returned. Remember those where you'd actually buy something and you would get the full 100% of that product and you wouldn't have to pay a subscription fee for it every month in order to keep enjoying that product? Those were the days. Those were the days.
Because everybody just loved, buying an issue of Sports Illustrated or something from the Boy Scouts, and you don't realize it's a subscription service. And then that magazine shows up at your door like every day. And next thing you know, instead of donating like $20, you end up donating like $100 and something, and there's a fee to cancel, or it's a pain to get it canceled, or you try to call about it and get it canceled, and the next thing you know, you're talking to a robot. So now you're dealing with a subscription, a robot, and now you're just frustrated, and there's completely no customer service whatsoever. It's awful. I hate it.
I feel like we need to lay the blame for this sort of thing at the feet of companies like Amway or Columbia House. I don't know if you guys remember those at all.
No, I remember. No, please tell more.
Martin, would you like to elaborate on those?
Sure. So you got something like Columbia House, let's say, and they sent out massive amount of mailers with big catalogs filled with CDs, cassettes, 8-tracks back in the day.
What are those?
Well, they had 8 tracks of music on them, or did they have 8 different tracks within the whatever it was? You could put it in your Pontiac and drive down the road. So you could buy like 12 CDs for a penny at the introductory price. And then over the course of your term, you had to buy a certain number of CDs. And each month they would have some selection they would automatically send you unless you turned it down.
Little did we know at the time was that these services were a colossal ripoff. But continue.
Yeah, so 16-year-old Martin thought, hey, yeah, I'll take a whole bunch of CDs. I like The Stranger by Billy Joel, and I'll grab a whole bunch of other stuff while I'm at it. And then a couple months down the way, you forget to respond, and suddenly you end up with, I don't know, the best of the new Christy minstrels. It ain't a lot of fun, guys.
There's nothing better than you having a passion, and you already have a sort of gentlemanly agreement, that it's how money works. There's an exchange, like you provide services or goods, for cash that can be exchanged for other kinds of services and goods. And no one ever likes feeling like they're getting taken advantage of. And everybody just loves exploiting your passion for money. I mean, nobody likes the whole turning society into the shady salesman. It's cool when you're like, hey, what's up? You got a camel? I'll give you some bread for your camel, homie, and you do that. But no, instead everything has to be like a creepy used car salesman where it's like, here, I'll give you the car, but here also if you slide a little extra, I can kind of buff out those scratches, I can throw in some air freshener, and next thing you know, you're just getting tacked on. Is there any society where that's considered respectful and kind? It comes off like a snake.
It's true. And this whole Columbia House thing, gosh, I remember it. I pored over these catalogs quite a lot when I was younger, but fortunately my dad always kind of said he wouldn't let me actually buy these things. Like I would kind of choose them out. I'd be like, all right, I think I'll get these 12 CDs and everything. But then whenever I would actually, approach him because I had no money, the kibosh was put on it pretty quickly. Let me put it that way. But it's
And
I just sorry, go on.
No, well, I just think he's a very wise man for that because, it makes it look like you're getting so much bang for your buck because you're going to see all the stuff advertised, all these, like, you look at this advertisement here, you got Dookie by Green Day. I believe you got, is it Metallica top right? I cannot tell, sorry, in that picture, but you're seeing all the headline artists. Next thing you know, if you're still looped into it, if those big releases aren't coming out as frequently, you're getting stuck grabbing CDs that you're probably never going to listen to. And next thing you know, you've dropped so much money on something that's just sitting on your shelf. It's like, say you collect DVDs or VHS tapes, and instead of just getting what you like, you just buy it because, not even just for the fun of collecting, just you feel like you need to have it. And next thing you know, you have glorified paperweights just sitting there, and it makes you feel disgusted every time you look at it.
I just looked it up. Reddit says they would send you to collections over like a single CD payment that you missed.
Well, that's amazing.
Imagine ruining your credit because you forgot to cancel "Baby One More Time" by Britney Spears.
Oof, wow. That might almost be worth it. Or Ace of Base, The Sign.
I don't know.
Look at that.
I got a new life.
You even got Snoop Doggy Dogg. You got Hammer. Yeah, Heavy D and the Boys, House of Pain, Salt and Pepper. Oh man, I am going through a time warp on this right now. Prince, I never understood the appeal of Prince. I almost wonder if we should cover Purple Rain one day, but
I would love to cover Prince because I didn't get the hype either, but there's something about Prince that something happened during one of his performances and it made me the happiest person on the planet. So I'll save that story for another day.
Okay, so we will do Prince sometime, but we're pulling in stuttering guitarist on that one.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
So back to the subject at hand.
You see, guys, this is how they get you. They get you thinking about the things you actually love. And next thing you know, Bill. And it only got worse. Hey, take it away. Take the mic. Take the mic. Tell them what went wrong.
Well,
it started to go wrong, not actually through just the subscription models first. Because with Columbia House, you still owned that CD. And you could sell it at a garage sale. You could resell it anywhere you want. Because there's a long-standing common law tradition that when you own a copy of a thing, you have the right to resell that thing.
Yes, so, that's how GameStop survives.
Exactly.
Survives?
But in the early teens, the 20-teens, a guy was going to school here in the United States, but he was from overseas. And when he went back home for a visit, he found out that his cousins were taking exactly the same classes as him, using exactly the same books, not localized versions with that were translated. They were using exactly the same books, same editions, for like 5% the cost of his textbook.
And did his name rhyme with Jeff Bezos by any chance, or? It
did not, but what he decided to do was have his cousins go around and buy up as many books as they could possibly find, ship them to him in the United States, or just drop ship, that kind of arrangement, send them directly to people who bought them from him. So he becomes a book reseller, and he made tens of thousands of dollars in college doing this. Well, three textbook manufacturers or printers sued him. Now, they lost in federal court because the courts decided that a person does have a right to resell a thing which they purchased. But very soon after that, you notice that the streaming model and a lot of the subscription models came into play. And suddenly, you weren't buying your copies of things. You were buying access to stuff. You were buying access to film and music libraries. That's an entirely different thing.
Yeah. And, going back to that model you were talking about, it never sat well with me. And I still can't quite wrap my head around why you would need to continue paying tax on something you've already paid tax for when you sell it off. But I think that's a whole other story. And maybe that's just the bitter Canadian in me speaking. But going back to what you were saying, the subscription model. Yes, the subscription model. It seems as though the subscription model goes along with, how do I put this? Software, programs, invisible services, things that you can't quite touch.
The
like
information economy?
The information economy, like chocolate and peanut butter.
People want to sell a product without fully giving it away. Because take digital products. They tried to pass all, these laws and all these policies, because if we make things into a subscription model, we can stop those from spreading harmful stuff, which there are people who do very bad things with technology. But you can also do that with many other kinds of tools. Could you imagine if they tried to sell you a table? But instead of selling you that table, all of a sudden the guy who made the table shows up into your house one day, crashes through the back door, and it's like, hey, I got a hammer. I got to make some changes to this table now. Economy, what do you know? Maybe cut some parts off.
I resemble that remark.
Oh, that's even better. I mean, what?
I'm going to assume you guys played Legend of Zelda, right?
Yes.
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay. You remember that that cartridge, right? The original Legend of Zelda cartridge.
Oh, of course. Yeah. With the gold one? No. That was Link. Sorry.
That's true. Well, I think the second or third edition of Legend of Zelda came in a gold cartridge too. But what I'm getting at is that was kind of hard to lose. I mean, I did it a couple of times, but it was nice and big, right? The new Switch cartridges, you can lose those in a pocket. They're going through the washing machine. I prefer to be able to physically hold media. But I find myself buying my kids digital editions on the Switch, even though I got the Switch because I could buy the cartridge.
Because it's more convenient.
It's just so easy.
Yeah, and you know what? That exactly the same thing with me and movies and videos. Before Netflix and Prime had really exploded, I still do have a pretty substantive Blu-ray and DVD collection. Like when Blu-ray first hit, it was competing against another format called HD DVD, and so I made the wrong choice, and I thought HD DVD was going to be the winner of that fight. Sony ended up putting Blu-ray players on all their PlayStations. They ended up, winning the formatting wars.
But it's okay though. Xbox had the HD DVD add-on that was like $200.
And I had that, and I had
no,
yes,
you did not have that.
I did have it. But then I sold it all off when I realized that Blu-ray had won, and and so that sort of that went away. But to all that to be said, I have still a pretty substantive media collection. I can count on one hand how many times I've actually gone and picked up, opened up one of those discs and put it in to my PlayStation to watch. Like when I heard, I recall this very clearly. When people were saying the future of entertainment was streaming, I thought, no way, there's no way. I wasn't a futurist at all, but it's so true. Like it's such a simple, unobtrusive, quick thing to do to get up off your couch, take your physical copy, slot it into your player, and then turn on the movie. And yet, Netflix, Prime, Disney Plus, like it's just that extra couple of minutes saved makes such a world of difference. It's unbelievable. Like I don't know if it's laziness. I don't know what it is.
The trade-off was you traded ownership. I don't mean this in any digging at anybody, because we're all pretty guilty of having done that. We've traded ownership for convenience. And unfortunately, what's happening is it's coming back to bite us all. Because especially I don't know how much you guys follow this, but Gemini over here, I tend to have a expansion span of I go off on a lot of tangents. I want to see something different very constantly. I want to try something new. I get bored easily. And if you're ever playing games with somebody, a lot of video game companies have Game Pass or PlayStation Now or Nintendo Switch Online or the higher tier of it. And you can get a bunch of the classics, you know, just right through streaming. You can get that game instantly. So if you're bored with a game within 10 minutes and you have a friend over, it's really convenient that you can just go right to something else and try something new you both have never played before if you're playing a monthly fee. That ain't too bad. But what gets really annoying, though, is that if you're not doing it in a social sense, you'll quickly start to realize that instead of paying $5 for, I don't know, Gears of War or something like that. I'm saying one of those games because Nintendo games never come down in price like ever. Instead of paying $5 for it, next thing you know, when you're not hanging out with somebody, you're paying like $20, $5, whatever a month. And next thing you know, 12 months later, you've racked up a pretty big bill. And not to mention, you never even owned those games in the first place. So when you have a situation like PT, which I'm not sure if everyone here remembers, but it was a game that was it was a demo that went viral in like 2014. It was made to advertise Silent Hills, a game that actually got canceled. And since that game was canceled, even though that demo was beloved and is probably one of the most influential games ever made, it was a horror game, mind you, it was delisted and now people can't play it legally. And this is a major problem. And in the society we're in, especially relevant to this image on screen, we're having to rent houses. We are having to where we don't get to own the DVDs we've been playing. And we're all kind of afraid of becoming those really fat people in WALL-E. And you're seeing a bit of a society rejection of this, especially with a lot of young people kind of going for like, you know, some of the old like antiques, a renaissance of the vinyl record players. And so a question would be, are we going to go into the you'll own nothing and you'll be happy society that corporate companies would love to see us go into, particularly people at Ubisoft? Or will we be seeing a massive rejection to try to get laws into place? I'd be curious to know you guys' thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I've noticed in the last little while is that with a lot of, how do I put this? The best laid plans of mice and men, right? Okay, so you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And yes, I know this has been kind of beaten to death on the internet, especially on Twitter. And I don't know whoever they chose, who that model is for the stock footage, but I'm sure he's been beaten up a bunch of times, like if people have ever kind of run across him on the road. But he sort of like this entire thing kind of encapsulated that philosophy. But you're right, Nolan, and I think that's a really astute observation. More and more, especially the younger generations, are rejecting this. And so I don't know if it's about laws, more so as in shopping trends and buying trends. One of the trends and one of the sort of interesting examples of this phenomena that comes to mind, and I'm sure Marvin the Movie Monster and Spencer Bakuli and John Trent would agree on this, is that with comic books, suddenly, they've gone to this. You can still buy comic books, like there's still comic book stores that exist out there, but there are online digital only services as well that you can buy them through. And I'd be lying if I said that I hadn't been doing that. I've got quite a lot of digital comics for whatever good that's worth, because the software that I'd been using for quite a few years, Comixology, ended up being bought out by Amazon, and then things kind of started getting wonky on there. Yeah. So suddenly there were concerns about losing access to all of those titles. But what I've been seeing and hearing are that kids these days are gravitating towards the old stuff, the older comic books from the 80s, the 90s, the early double zeros. They are those people who have those types of collections. They're selling them for like a really good price because they want to get back to those stories, not just holding physical copies of them, but being able to read quality stories again that might not be so culturally, politically appropriate for our current year of 2024.
Completely agree. That used to be when companies would aim at younger generations. It used to be, if you look at like the old, of course, I have a video game bias here, but like if you look at old like PlayStation ads, old Xbox ads, even Nintendo a bit, like so much of the advertising were so, it's against the system, man. We're against big corporation. Join us for the revolution, that sort of thing. That was their advertising style. And it worked. That really appeals to teenagers. Everybody knows the music video for We're Not Gonna Take It by Twisted Sisters. That appeals to a lot of young people, that fiery spirit. And it makes sense that they'd want to go back. And not to mention, I really would like to see, and I think we are, every generation tends to break some trends of a lot of prior ones. And I think a lot of the recent generations have really noticed, like, let's not repeat some of the same habits when it comes to talking about kids. And you can be like, oh, kids today and their new fangled flying machine or something like that. You could joke about that with your other people your age. But no, you're seeing a lot of rejection, like you were saying, Hangry, about rejecting whatever's geared at them from big tech, whatever. But you can also have to where, let's look at the reality here. Hollywood and such has been creatively bankrupt. It's no secret. Everybody knows they've pretty much been doing it for the past 20 years. Kids are growing up with stuff that didn't originate from this era. Think about all of us. We've all grown up with Batman, but Batman was got here long before we were even ever conceived. So if, say, they were exposed to Spider-Man and like No Way Home or something like that, they'll go back and look for the 80s comics as long as it's Spider-Man. So now you're seeing a lot of different age groups going for that stuff. I've been trying to get a lot of CRT, like TVs and computer monitors for my videos because I have a 90s bias. That's the style I like to go for. And you'll see the prices, and a lot of these are aimed for like retro gaming. And and people who are like 14 are going to buy a CRT that's like $200, $300 and used to not be able to even get rid of those.
Yeah.
I see people.
I've noticed that, like that people are now suddenly buying these CRTs for the authentic 90s gaming experience, which is wild.
And I can go to Walmart for crying out loud, and see vinyl records of new songs that have come out. I've bought a few myself, and it makes you wonder, where are we going? Because you see the numbers really don't lie. You see the people vast canceling like Disney Plus, and of course that's probably more of a content issue, but you have to ask, especially with the economy where it is, if the stuff gets better again, are they going to sacrifice and just go right for the streaming models? Or is there going to be enough of a societal rejection to just not support that sort of thing? Because especially in like gaming, gamers are very loud people. And there has been a lot of pushback and trashing to a lot of people for making controversial comments that, such as like the Ubisoft dude who said, gamers need to get used to not owning their own games or something like that. I have to look at the exact quote again. I wrote an article about this story, but I just am so fascinated to see, where are we going from here? Because we've had all these cautionary tales, we're living really in those cartoons I watched when I was young. Of course, it might be a bit different for you guys, but when I was young, there was stuff about AI, what the future would look like, and all this. And we're living in those times now. So are we going to just fall into the traps that some of our greatest writers warned us about? Or are we actually seeing a bit of a new form of a counterculture, just instead of being against, against, well, I guess we're still against censorship, but instead of, the stereotypical 90s skater way, are we seeing some sort of new era of that?
Well, first, we're not against censorship. Everybody's against them getting censored, but practically nobody is against censoring opinions they hate. Secondly, let's talk Disney Plus, because you brought it up. They've got a couple problems there. One is their content library is just not deep enough. You can scroll through everything they have in an afternoon, and you can't say that at Netflix. Netflix, they've got stuff probably nobody's watched on their platform. But
Very true.
yes, but with Disney Plus, they are willing to get rid of entire shows and movies that will never be seen again just to get the tax write-off. And nobody will ever own
sometimes
them.
that's for our own good, I feel.
It may be, but nobody will ever own them because they were never released on disc or any other format. You couldn't purchase Crater before it was taken off the platform because it had such a short lifespan.
Absolutely right. It just makes me think about, and to go with what you were saying too, censorship is by, a viewpoint. And the first thing I think about when you bring that up is Song of the South, to keep it with Disney. There was a time when that film was released on VHS. And of course, you can find some bootleg copies out there. You didn't hear that from me, but it is out there. If you have a digital only product, if it never hit the retail market like that, it's just gone, period, unless you're going to pirate it. There's literally no legal way to buy that, period.
But we are diverging away from the subject here, gentlemen. We got to be talking about subscription models now.
Well, I thought with Disney Plus, we were getting back to the subscription model.
That's true. That is true.
Because Disney has moved away from letting you buy a copy of a movie. There used to be the Disney Vault. Your little girl loves Belle. Well, that's great. We released it on VHS 5 years ago. We're going to release it, do a big anniversary release for DVD in 5 years. That kind of thing. So they work people into a buying frenzy over, whatever Diamond Jubilee anniversary for whatever they're releasing. And it was a big thing. Now with Disney Plus, the subscription model, they're dialing back home video release. So if you want your kids to be able to sit down and watch the Disney classics, you are just going to have a subscription long-term to Disney, because it's illegal to download and save the Disney Plus stuff because you have bought access to the library. You haven't bought the digital rights to each one.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure you can still go buy them through Amazon or something like that, but I think that's where Disney's moving. I think they want to cut off the ownership potential of the classics, and you have to go to Disney Plus for them.
And same thing with Apple. Every day I seem to be winning a free 3-month trial to try out Apple Music. And the one time I did it,
push the buy button, Hangry. Push the buy button.
Well, the one time I did it, it completely wiped out all of my playlists, and I had to rebuild them from scratch.
Oh my
insane.
Gosh! I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
You have something already there, and next thing you know, it wipes out. It's like, here's our new ecosystem and our new way to access our library. You had an old one. Don't talk about that. We don't talk about your old stuff. I
was livid. And so, just on principle alone, I'm never signing up for it again, because I've spent years putting my playlists together, right? So it overwrites the subscription model, overwrites even just the meta concept of ownership of how you want to. It takes away ownership from how you want to listen to your music. Even.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go one step further, because we've talked about, media, video games, music, Adobe. Can we all rant about Adobe for a minute? You used to be able to, because all of us here, we contribute to a show here, where people listen in or watch us, and I'm sure a lot of YouTubers and filmmakers and people in that sort of entertainment industry can relate to this. It sucks. You can't just buy an editing software. You can't just buy Photoshop from Adobe. It used to be you forked over. I remember I did this with Final Cut Pro X back in the day. You could just spend like $300. Bam, that editing software is yours. You own it. It's yours now. It is your tool. Go mad. Make great movies with it. Now they've shifted everything to a subscription service. So instead of my $300 whatever purchase, or heck, I'd even pay straight up like $600 at this point for it if I get to buy it once. Instead, I get their whole library and I have to pay like 30 something dollars a month. And it's not even much of an optional because like I've been trying to do this for career as for how long. A lot of people rely on this for their jobs. You know, it's a necessity for what they need to do. There are some alternatives out there, but a lot of them, you know, I'm going to be real here, they don't have as many tutorials for them. So a lot of people don't know how to work them. They're not as famous. They won't have as many of the features. And this is why a lot of people, unfortunately, resort to pirating these softwares because it's just so crazy expensive. Money's tight, and not everybody can afford to realize after 5 years you spent like $700 on Photoshop. It's insanity. What do you guys think?
It's death by 1,000 cuts, and it's, I think, a bit of a response to the fact that money is getting tight, right? Because the impulse, it's the equivalent of getting the pocket, like your digital pocket change, right? So if you keep on giving away or spending that extra buck or $2 that you got in your pocket that's kind of dangling around there, that'll add up over time. And so the same thing with respect to monthly fees. So before you know it, when you sign up for these fees, at first you look at it, you think, oh yeah, well, you know, $5 a month, I can handle that. Or, you know, $15 a month. Okay, fine. It's a bit much, but whatever. But when you add it all up, when you've got like 20, 30 of these things a month, it's taking a substantial chunk out of your pocket. So that's what's really insidious about it, I find.
It's a swarm of insects, basically.
Yeah.
One bug ain't going to cause that much terror. When you have 100 of them coming at you, it becomes like that scene in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And yeah, I did reference that. But it's crazy. Now everything needs a subscription service. We're already worrying about mortgages and like rent.
Mortgage, which is the original, the OG subscription service.
Yes. And we're already worrying about all that. Now you mean to tell me I have to do it for YouTube, Adobe, Amazon, Spotify, and their prices are just going up and away. Some of them sell you, it's like, hey, it's $3 for the first like few months. Next thing you know, it jumps up. And gradually, even if you're paying full price, because there's certain things I do still have, I think all of us here have some subscription plans because either we kind of really could use it, or B, it actually is worth it. But those are few and far between. I honestly pay for YouTube Premium. I have for a few years now because I don't have the time to watch the ads. I literally do not have that time. But it's nice. Different strokes, different folks. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, I was resisting YouTube Premium for the longest time, but being able to play YouTube videos while you're not on the actual screen itself is kind of priceless.
Want to know a fun fact, by the way?
Uh-huh.
It used to be YouTube was built into an iPod or an iPhone, whatever, and it already had that feature.
Yeah.
They took it away and gave the app, and they took away a lot of features, and then they bring them back again, but there's a cost. Now you got to buy it. It's really not a great, I don't really agree with that business model, but I mean, I'm purchasing it, so I get worried. But what drives me crazy is like, take like Spotify or something like that. Like, I remember here recently, it went up $2, like a whole $2 again. And YouTube janked up their price at like the exact same time. And then just here recently, I hear they're cranking up $1 a few again. And it's just going to keep gradually. When you don't have that pocket change there, it's just going to add up. I think for someone in the 4th grade who's been taking some math classes can tell you that. It's going to catch up with you one way or another.
It will. Well, on that note, I do want to offer a slight ray of hope in the sense that it does look like companies are, as they do, they always try to push the envelope and try to see how much they can get away with. But there do seem to be limits, and the market and the audience are reacting to it. So take this, for example. BMW last year had announced that you would have to pay a subscription service, a monthly fee to use the heated seats in the car, which is just, I mean, I have no words, but BMW, however, due to I think mass outrage, has dropped its plans for an $18 a month heated seat subscription.
How much are they going to charge for a tasteful dashboard?
Yeah, seriously.
What is that?
Like, what else they had here? Depending on the region, a monthly subscription to heat your front seats was roughly 18, with options to subscribe for a year, 3 years, or pay for unlimited access for 415. So I think that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to minimize or sort of minimize the cost, the upfront cost of buying heated seats. The argument being that if you want this car, heated seats in this car will cost an extra $415, or you can subscribe to it for a month, like a month per month. So you don't pay that built-in cost up front. But I'm sure that $415 was already included in the purchase price of the car itself. Like the car purchases have so many weird exceptions and add-ons and just price shenanigans that I have no doubt they would try to make the customer feel as if they were saving $415 a month by not having
heated bear this seats in mind. It is a BMW. So since you won't be using your turn signals, you'll never have to replace those lights.
That's true. And again, I can see this. I can picture myself being in that boardroom, in Stuttgart or wherever they are, and one of these execs who is getting paid a vice president, an up and coming young vice president, saying like, "Look, these people who live down in Florida with BMWs, they don't need heated seats, so they'll, this gives this." Cloaking it in the guise of what's best for the customer or being in the customer's interests, allowing the customer the choice to opt in or opt out of heated seats. And, it's the same thing as paying extra at the grocery store for a bag. Oh, well, we're saving the environment and we're also reducing our costs, which we are, cough, cough, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, passing on to you, but not offering you plastic bags at checkout anymore. But hey, you could spend an extra, 30 cents or whatever, and you can get a bag from us. It's for you. This is the choice. Like it's this
manipulative.
It's a manipulative cash grab under the guise of customer empowerment, which I find is incredibly disingenuous.
And you see, when they say you have a choice, that's how it always starts out. This is a recurring thing with these companies, is it starts out with, well, we have another option if you want to get that. Next thing you know, in 5 years, that cheaper option or the option that would be more ideal is completely faded out because they're on to the next story. It's like, well, they've already accepted it. We can go on. I remember a decade ago when Microsoft announced the Xbox One. They were basically like, no, you can't. There's like no used games. Like you have to always have the system online. You can't share your games with people. There are so many loopholes and stuff. Everyone was dogging on them. Everyone was memeing on them, and they had to reverse it. I remember when at the time, I believe it was like their president or CEO said, like, we have a product for those who want used games. It's called the Xbox 360. And that was their old product that wasn't going to be getting that many new games.
They were cutting all the backwards compatibility. So you did own things, but they were no longer like they were no longer they were broken. They were no longer useful.
Well, and if they turn off the servers that your disk tells the system to go look for to get its upgrades to make it operable, you don't own it anymore.
There are so many games from the last generation where you just can't buy, like, you can buy the disc for them, but it has like no game to connect through. Like the game is dead. It's like those old computer games from like the late 90s, early 2000s, where there was supposed to be a lot of players there. Now, if you go up and manage to find the servers or something, it's just an empty, creepy looking world because there's no other players there anymore. And some games, you buy it. My prime example of this is Just Dance 2024 on the Nintendo Switch. You buy the game in the case, there's no game in the case. It's literally a code. And if anyone follows this stuff, a lot of these services, because like a lot of the streaming services, outside of Netflix are newer. Disney Plus just launched a few years ago. Prime Video, I don't think that's that crazy old. Tubi, whatever have you. But video games, the whole buying a game online thing has been around for a little while. You can go back to, even for those who still have their Nintendo Wiis, there used to be the Wii Shop channel. You could go to this channel on your Wii and buy old games. It was great. But if you say had that download code theoretically for Just Dance, this is like the third eShop variant for Nintendo. They have already closed like at least 2 of their home console services over the course of however long it's been. So in the future, Just Dance 2024, you're never going to be able to buy that game again. One-time purchase, more like no-time purchase. It's awful.
Did you buy a track pack for Rock Band? Too bad. Gone.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And we're talking on topic cars to bring this full circle a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to go too gloom and doom with this, but Ford had done a patent for a self-driving car that if you didn't make all the payments, it could literally repossess itself. Now, of course, no one goes and buys a car with the intention of, I'm not going to buy it. But it's the principle that is scary. It starts looking like those like 1984 type movies. And it's good like with Xbox. And as we've seen, I'm glad you showed like the BMW thing there, Hangry, because it shows with enough outcry, like it can stop them from doing that. Of course, they try to find any other way to, get your money from you, but it goes to show that there is power in the people's voices against it. I remember there was a YouTuber, and I feel so bad because I can't remember his name, but a while back, that was where I first heard of the Ford story. And what his advice he told to people was, there were people out there like car guys that were like, well, that's what you get for buying a Ford. No, do not turn against each other. Don't blame them for buying Chevy or Hyundai, BMW, whatever. Blame these companies. The last thing you want to do is fight amongst each other. You are the consumer. You are the voice. This is your money. You have the choice to tell them, no, we used to have it so much better. I used to be able to pay $50 for a video game and have loads of content made with love and passion, as opposed to paying $20 subscription for a game that barely works and won't even work in 3 years because it's shut down. That's my 2 cents that I will choose to spend how I want it to be.
Well, if you go ahead, Hangry.
Oh, no, please go ahead, Martin.
If you want to talk anti-consumer policies, let's talk Google and Microsoft, because you guys may or may not remember this, but a few years back, it was a big problem in academic circles when people using Google Docs lost access to their own documents. Like people were writing theses and lost access to them because Google was scanning their documents and didn't like some of the things being said.
Wow.
Disgusting.
Which is hilarious because a lot of these people were doing research. They were leftist professors or trying to be professors, getting their doctorates, doing research on the right wing or whatever, or Nazis, or Google went through their documents, found terms they didn't like, and shut them down for hate speech. People were in crisis over losing years worth of work because Google AI decided you don't get to use the product that you thought you owned access to. This is your intellectual property, but it's on our servers, so it's ours now.
Are we really going to let a robot decide what is good and what is bad?
Yes.
Without any sort of proper like law system? It starts going into the deep, Star Trek type discussions, in our fantasy shows about the humanity of a robot. But I at least know at this current stance, this might change one day when androids are a lot more like our Datas or our fictional robot characters. But I know today is that we have enough trouble for humans trying to know what the law should be. Let's not have a robot that we already know has bugs deciding what is hate speech and what is not. Because right now it's just, what opinions do I not like? And it might not even reflect who built it.
So Nolan, you had sent me a link before about delisted digital-only games. Do you want to talk about this a little?
Sure. Oh my goodness. Okay, a moment of silence, everybody in the audience, for this list of games that used to be available. Now, some of these,
So
like I
much
know
in words.
The Simpsons arcade game, there is a physical arcade cabinet that you might be able to spend a few hundred thousand, however much, for that game. But like PT, as I brought up earlier, that is not available anymore. I know Overwatch 1 isn't. Super Mario Brothers 35, that was a limited time release. You could download the game, but since the 35th anniversary celebration is over, you can no longer buy it, and there was never a physical version. Yeah, no. Meme Run, that game got taken down because of some copyright issues. The Virtual Console itself, that was a program that you could get on your Nintendo Wii that lets you buy retro games. That service was shut down, and a lot of people who can't afford to spend like $300 on a GameCube game at a convention can't do that. And they can't even buy the game normally in the modern day and age. It's also a absolute nightmare for people who believe in video game preservation, such as myself.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize there were so many Angry Birds games that have been sort of blasted to oblivion. That's pretty wild.
Does that make you angry?
Love this this phone game, Sour Patch Tower Defense or something like that. It's like a tie-in with the Sour Patch Kids candy
Wow.
tower defense game. And last time I looked, it wasn't in the store, but that was nearly a decade ago, and maybe not that long.
Well,
yeah, it used to be a lot of these that were delisted were like, random web browser games on like cartoonnetwork.com or something like that. And they made a lot of really fun games. I used to play those a lot. But, those were kind of seen as more, advertisements for the show, a byproduct of the time. A lot of these games, like you see even a Mario game on here, for crying out loud. These are huge parts of our society. This is stuff that how many years from now, it'll be like our own equivalent of like Egyptian paintings. Like, how did we entertain ourselves? And as we know, fiction impacts culture. We've seen it with Star Trek. That's how inspiration is brought about. So
how much
I
was
even saw
the great Java purge?
Yeah. Ooh. Oh my gosh, you're right. The amount of it's just crazy, the sheer amount of lost media that is out there. And instead of just being, the fun little detective work, Indiana Jones stuff, we're just seeing it more and more nowadays. And I know one thing you had on there, Hangry, and I'd have to do a bit of digging, because it's more of a kind of a generalized, like what's not available anymore. Did it say Google Stadia games? Have they discontinued the whole service? Because if that's the case, that's like a whole system losing out on like all of its games. Like that stuff can happen.
Yeah, Stadia games that was on there. Wow.
I'm just trying to think, like, aside from, society rejecting, I'm just trying to think of what are some positives we can take from this on where to bring society in a hopefully good direction to where we're not just answering to whatever a corporation says,
Well,
I'll tell you. Buy yourself an old car, learn to play an instrument, marry a loving person, raise a loving family.
Very well said.
There you go. Well, the other thing too is in preparation for our subject tonight, I was Googling, some of the dumbest subscription services out there. And so a few of them that came up, which I thought was really interesting. There was one, somebody mentioned there was a sewing machine that wouldn't even sew a stitch unless you had a monthly subscription for it.
What?
A treadmill that wouldn't work unless you had a subscription. They talk about things like salad in a jar subscriptions, MLB season pass. You can watch every team play except your home team. There's a Weather Channel premium subscription service.
Oh boy. I don't want to know what kind of Weather Channel's on the top tier, but continue.
And it's these premium services, right? Like LinkedIn premium, Facebook ad free, ad blockers. I am still of the tinfoil conspiracy theory that all of the internet ads are created by those ad blocking companies in order to sell their product.
Like the old conspiracies that viruses are linked to the companies, and it's like a deep underground operation, all that. I'd talk more about that, but I'm afraid I'll get not be here next week. So I'll just happily say, oh, that's a happy little thing.
So there others included things like airbags. So having your airbags activate when you get into a crash. Somebody said remote
Can I
engine
pay to have my
start.
airbags turned off? Because that's just nanny state nonsense.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good question.
All right, guys, to buy the seatbelt, you got to pay extra.
And then like
Also nanny state nonsense and helmet laws.
the big one, Microsoft Office products. You cannot buy them anymore. And a lot of this too is being driven by Apple, on both ends, Microsoft and Apple, because pretty much every app on the app, like the Apple Store, the App Store now, is some type of subscription service, and it really shouldn't be. So it's
and
Outlook's
really
getting healthy with me. Every time I try to send an email, it tries to tell me to rework it so it's more inclusive.
So
I can't believe that. Well, okay, I can believe it, but that's shocking. And one more thing on the whole, like Apple, like they're trying to do so many things to have especially they're trying to eliminate the middleman, the third party. Like they have people who can take used product. Yeah, angry. Eliminate people who know how to work on this stuff. The third party computer repair market. They want to have to where you could only people within their Apple sphere, we know what that means, can repair them. So don't be afraid to take some time, learn computers, learn how to break into, learn how to repair a car maybe, because who knows, maybe some more people want to, get old cars because some companies just want only them to have the power for that sort of thing. And no company should have that much power.
Nolan, I was just explaining to my wife the right to repair a movement, and I think an episode would be right up your alley.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
Well, guys, to sum it up, I think my own thoughts on this are that just as in the same way, people have always been told and companies have always been told the customer is always right and to put your voice forward with your wallet. If enough people are sick of these subscription services, then it's a matter of getting that critical mass of people to just stop buying them. And as the economy gets worse, as people's budgets get pinched, as people have less money to spend, more and more of these subscriptions are going to get canceled. And my hope is that a lot of these companies that have put these subscription services out there will really feel the hit on that. I almost feel like at this stage, there is an opportunity for some enterprising company,
Yes.
be it a new company or one of the established ones, to be like, hey, you know what? Are you tired of subscription services? Well, you know what? You can buy our product. And
yes,
that would probably go very well.
Well, as we know, Hollywood's struggling right now. And as we've said a lot on especially on the WW Pro channel and a lot of channels in our sphere, now's the time. If you got talent, make stuff your own content, there's a lot of ways to do it now. The tools are in our hands. And if you have a position to where you can sell a product and have people own it, might be worth a shot. Who knows? You might be the next phenomenon. And all these companies that followed the whole Silicon Valley subscription service model, they all wanted to be the next Apple. Maybe you go in a bit more physical or ownership type thing with it. Maybe it could even be digital, but it's ownership. Maybe you could be that next revolution that this is your calling. Who knows? I'm not saying that's the case, but it could happen.
Martin, any final thoughts?
No, I'm going to stick with my thoughts about old cars, good wife, and a instrument.
Well,
and we make that instrument a guitar.
I got a soft spot for the piano, but I play guitar too.
You know what? I can't think of a better way to end this off. So, guys, once again, thank you for this lovely conversation. Members, if you liked this talk, please let us know down below. Leave us your thoughts, leave us your comments. Tell us what your feelings are on subscription models, subscription services. If you think that subscription services are going to start going the way of the dodo, or if they are here to stay forever, let us know. And as always, if you have any other suggestions for topics to consider for the Lost Guys to unearth, do pass them along. We would love to see them. We would love to read them and to talk about them. So on that topic, Martin, Nolan, thank you again for joining me today to talk about this. Hopefully we're able to purge our humors a little. And on that note, we will now get lost.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
That too.
Well, wait, subscribe. That one's still free. YouTube, subscribing is still free. Remember that.
We're getting lost. Enough. Okay,
That's
bye,
the
guys.
point.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation of The Lost Guys here on That Pod Place. Be sure to subscribe for more content like it. And you can become a member at That Pod Place here on YouTube to see more of The Lost Guys every Friday as soon as the guys record an episode. Let us know your thoughts on this intriguing topic in the comments down below. Please comment, like, and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to That Park Place Podcasts Online, your source for exclusive content and highlights from WDW Pro, The Pro Show, and That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.